Hello, Lions Nation. Welcome back to another edition of Believe in Lions. It's brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Trevor Thompson. Glad to have you along as the Lions have wrapped up preseason game number 2. Later this week, they'll wrap up training camp before playing in preseason game number 3. And then September the 13th, the regular season gets started in earnest against the Saints at home. A lot of ground to cover between now and then, a lot of position battles up for grabs, and we've got the legendary Lomas Brown in the house to talk about what he's seen to this point in the season as we talk about those things that are yet to unfold. Lomas, I really do appreciate the time here. Before I get to my questions to you about what I've seen so far, I just want to start the show by you breaking down what you've seen. 2 preseason games in the book. Had a great time listening to you and Dan Miller cover preseason game number 2 against the Commanders, a big win for the team. But a lot of things in training camp I know you've seen and a lot of things you've got on your mind. So let's just start with what your thoughts are to this point in time with the Lions.
Yeah, Trevor, I mean, again, a team that's coming off a non-playoff season, finished 9-8 last year. And one of the big things was injuries. We thought we shored things up coming into this year, bringing in Campbell May to replace the center, drafting Blake Miller. A lot of the things, Derek Moore, bringing him in the loop. And, to this point, injuries starting to play another key role in the Lions team this year. And the season hadn't even started yet, losing Campbell May, early in this year. And, I don't know if people really understand how practicing together, how you get your chemistry. And I'm talking specifically offensive line, but I'm not, because you need chemistry in all the other positions on that team, but particularly the offensive line. We have to work like a hand in a glove, Trevor. Everybody got to be on the same accord. And if one guy doesn't do his job, that play isn't going to be successful. And when you're not able to practice together and practice as a group and start getting that, what we call that unspoken language, where you don't even have to say anything, right, and the guy knows what you need to do or what you're going to do, it starts becoming a problem. And that's the thing I'm starting to see a little bit with the Lions, right? We got some inconsistencies in the first 2 preseason games, especially the second game. I thought we either took more of a step towards progressing in a better way. But like I said, still a lot of questions that need to be answered about this team going into the 2026 season.
Man, there's just so many places to go off of what you just said. Not only that continuity and chemistry with the guy you're playing next to, but even in the coaching staff, what they're looking for, what the systems are, and having that familiarity. So you're going, like, when you consider John Morton last year and then Dan Campbell taking over and now Drew Petzing coming in, you're at 3 offensive coordinators over the last 2 seasons. This season hasn't even started. So with the coaching staff, with the players, with the rookies coming in, there's just so much in flux right now. How long, from your experience, does it take to iron those kinds of things out? And what's the forecast there for how long it might take for everybody to be on the same page?
Well, I think Coach has done a great job this year. And what I'm saying by that is I'm with him with the joint practices, that concentrate on yourselves. We got so much talent on both sides of the ball. You're getting good work in against your own guys. I just remember when I was young and I got in the league and I got William Gay over there. I had Mike Kofor over there, Pro Bowl players that I had to go up against as a young guy. And it just kind of accelerated my learning curve in the NFL. So I do think we have enough talent on our team where I don't blame Coach. I would have wanted to stay and just practice against ourselves, right, and try to accelerate the chemistry that me and you are talking about. Trevor, I think when you look for us to really, when we were really in a groove, when you felt your technique was there, all your fundamentals were down, you were just playing ball, that normally comes in like probably about the 4th, 5th game of the season. So they got time. They got time to get the chemistry together, get the team consistently together. And an easier schedule should help that. But again, time is ticking against you where you have to try to have these guys healthy because, again, if you're not able to practice together, if you're not able to play together, it's just so hard to develop it.
All right, let's pick things up at preseason game number 2. And you mentioned Cade Mays, and a lot of questions coming into the season were going to be centered around the offensive line. So you get a center who's got some experience. You think you're going to plug and play with Cade May and then let Blake Miller and these other guys along the line, the younger guys, learn as they go. Cade goes down. You're looking for a center. What have you seen so far at the center position in that offensive line early on yesterday? We took some lumps. They had turnovers in the first 2 possessions, and it just looked like there wasn't that continuity. But what have you seen, not just in the couple of preseason games, but in camp as far as that goes and where they stand trying to develop a new center and that chemistry along that O-line so far?
Yeah, I see some inexperience there, to be honest with you. If you think about it, even with Juice, right? He played the guard position, even though he played center, but he's mostly been playing the guard position. So, again, you have to get back in there and get readjusted to playing the center position. I thought he got some good work throughout the week, the training camp. I thought he got good work at the center position. Of course, he only played maybe 1 or 2 series in the second preseason game, so it's kind of hard to gauge, what happened. But from the little bit that happened, quarterback-center exchange, everything was good with that. Him identifying the Mike backers or identifying guys that come up in the box, that seemed to be good. So those are 2 things that seem to be good. Again, we'll have to see more to really put a grade on it. With Seth McLaughlin, the other guy, man, so much inexperience, so green he is and everything. So again, if he gets in the game, man, it's going to be some adjustments that have to be made to try to protect the center position if he's in there, because he's so young. He hadn't seen things, Trevor. And then if we ever get to the point where we have to put Taleique Williams in there, we're in trouble. Because that means we don't went through about 2 or 3 centers, because you don't want to move him. That's the last resort, having to move your starting right guard to the center position. So hopefully Juice will be able to, like Coach Campbell say, take the job. That's what he wants to see out of the offensive lineman. He wants to see that out of Christian Mahogany at the left guard position. He said to us in meetings, Coach said this, he said, we will not be held hostage by our left guard position. Now, if you're a player hearing that, that's telling me something as a player, that I have to step my game up, but it also tells me that I have an opportunity. So take advantage of it. And those are some of the things that I've been seeing that's been going on that we need to clean up.
You know what you just told me? If it comes to Seth McLaughlin and it comes to Taleique Williams, 2 young guys, at least Seth played center in college, but 2 young guys, inexperienced. If you're depending on that, you're telling me right now there's not a lot of depth at that position. There's not a lot of depth, experience depth on that line, and that could be a problem going forward. How do you address that, Lo?
Well, they brought in 2 veterans. They brought in Laken Tomlinson, who was a Lion that they drafted back, I think, 2015 or so. And then they brought in Will Hernandez, who was a lineman that the Saints drafted years ago. Older guys, but experienced guys. But Trevor, that just tells me that I wouldn't use the word desperate, but I would use the word unsettled. That's a better word. That position is unsettled when you're bringing in older guys like that to try to fill that position. It's not settled. And Coach, like I said, he said, we will not be held hostage. And I know he said the left guard position, but I know he means any other position. They can't be held hostage.
So I'm just going to point something else out to you, and it concerns this O-line as well. But Jahmyr Gibbs, you've traded David Montgomery away, and now FanDuel has the odds on Jahmyr Gibbs coming in with the best odds of being the offensive player of the year coming into this season, plus 650. But if this O-line is unsteady, and there's not a Frank Ragnow type at center to help exploit the assets you've got in that running game, give the quarterback time to hit these assets you've got in your passing game, what kind of impact will that have, and how do you make up for that?
Huge, because we know that Drew Petzing, right, he came in and he said what he wants to develop is a physical offense. And what I've seen from these 2 preseason games and practices, all the runs, Trevor, have been between the tackles. I haven't seen too many outside zone run plays, and we were known for our outside run zone plays under Ben Johnson, a little bit under John Morton. I haven't seen any of those. Even in the game, I haven't seen that. So to me, Drew Petzing is living up to what he said, that he wants to have a physical offense, because anytime you run between the tackles, you have to be physical, but you also have to have the personnel to be able to do that. Now, it's one thing to want to do that, but again, you got to have the personnel to be able to do that. So it might be some adjustments have to be made if, like you're saying, the offensive line doesn't perform at the level that they need them to perform at. It might have to be some different philosophies that Drew Petzing, that Dan Campbell come up with offensively to help them. And they're going to have to do it, because I think our offense is going to have to lead this team. It can't be our defense. It can't be special teams. It's going to have to be the offense. I think a big emphasis is going to have to be put on the offense scoring points when they get the opportunity, eating up the clock, keeping the opposing offenses on the sideline. And that helps our defense, because we're going to need all the help we can, especially as shorthanded as we are in the secondary on defense.
Jahmyr Gibbs is as gifted as they come. Can he overcome some of the weaknesses or some of the inexperience and some of the lack of chemistry we might see early on in this O-line? Can he overcome that on his own?
I think
is he that good in your mind? Can he do that?
Special talent. Look, Trevor, I tell people, we had the most unsound blocking scheme when we had Barry in the backfield. I'm telling you, true story. It'll be 5 offensive linemen, us 5 up there. The defense would bring a 6th guy down, and we couldn't block him. The coaches would say, don't worry about that guy. They would tell Barry, that free guy that's coming loose, that's your responsibility. Now, he's getting the ball, but they telling him that free rush is his responsibility too. And 9 out of 10 times, B would shake the guy and be able to get around him. But that was just so unsound. So you have to have a talent like that. Jahmyr is a talent. He is a talent. And I think he can overcome some of these things that may happen. I don't know how consistently he'll be able to do that.
Hey, Lo, when I was listening to you and Dan yesterday, and you brought up Barry Sanders, and you said he had to learn, and you had to tell him, don't make your move before you get the ball, Barry. Get the ball, then make your move. And I'm just wondering, from that standpoint, when you see a back like Barry, you see a back like Jahmyr, and you compare the two right now, what kind of advice you might have for Jahmyr when he gets the ball in the backfield or gets it out in the flat off a screen or something like that? What kind of advice you might have to him to help his O-line or to help improve his game and break some big runs for himself? What kind of advice do you see there?
The biggest thing I'll tell Jahmyr, don't look for the big play, all right? Because a lot of times when you're looking for that big play, every play, then you have a tendency of trying to press and do things that you don't necessarily have to do. I'll tell them, have trust in your offensive lineman, press the ball up against the line, then make your move, then do what you need to do. But don't predetermine things and don't look for the big play every play, because we know it doesn't come like that in the NFL. But he's a talent. He can create some things if he stays disciplined, continue to press the hole, and then something to pop. Believe me, when you're that good things happen for you.
And he is that good. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him this year. But again, back to this O-line and the impact they're going to have on this offense. I'm going to go back to FanDuel odds on Jared Goff right now in the MVP voting. He is 16th down the list. You've got to run 16 deep. And I'm telling you right now, the other 3 of the quarterbacks in the NFC North are ahead of him. Well, 2 others are ahead of him. Then Kyler Murray, we don't know what's going to happen to him. But Caleb Williams and Jordan Love are 13th and 14th, respectively. And then you get down to 16th when you get to Jared Goff. I don't want to talk specifically about Jared Goff here, but I do want to talk about, again, this depth and the backup quarterback situation. And you and Dan were talking about that yesterday. You asked the question, how far back do we have to go to have a legit backup QB in this system here in Detroit? And we're looking for one this year. What have you seen so far in that regard? Josh Dobbs, like 2 turnovers in the first 2 possessions yesterday, but then ripped off a 50-yard run. Luke Altmire, a young kid, showing he's got some skills and there's something to work with there. But if Jared Goff goes down and we've got to rely on either of those, where are we, or do you see them still in the market for another backup QB? Where do you stand on that?
I think they are still in the market, but I do think that if it's me, I'm keeping all 3 quarterbacks. I'm putting Luke down on maybe my practice squad because I've just seen so much from him, so much potential from him. He's a guy that I want to keep and I want to continue to work with, continue to groom, because I think that kid can do something. I really do. I don't know how high he can go, but I see some things in Luke Altmire. And Joshua Dobbs, the man, I'm telling you, Trevor, the thing that impresses me so much about him has to be how smart he is. Think about this, Trevor. I said that last week on radio when he came in last week versus Cincinnati. Man, they had him in empty backfields. They had him doing with all these different formations. And I'm saying to myself, this dude just been in camp like 2 days and you got him in empty formation. Think about that. You have to be smart. You have to be able to grasp this offense really fast for the coaching staff to entrust you and put you in empty backfield, because an empty backfield, there's nobody back there to help protect. So like I said, if the defense brings an extra guy up there, the quarterback has to know where his hot reads are to get the ball off. He learned all that so fast, and I'm like, wow, that little thing right there, that impressed me with him. And of course his legs, because I said again, I don't know, and Trevor, maybe you can help me. When have we ever, if we ever have had a dual threat quarterback in Detroit? We were trying to go back. I mean, Rodney Peete's name came up way back in the day. I mean, think about it. It's hard to go back in our archives and think that we've had a dual threat quarterback that came here. And that's what Joshua Dobbs can give us. That's another wrinkle that we can add into the playbook. So I hope they keep all 3 of these guys. Well, take Jared out of that. But I hope they keep Joshua Dobbs and they keep Luke Altmire, because I think those guys can help us. Look, if Jared goes down, I mean, Trevor, you know what I'm saying? That's like that with most teams. If you think about them, most teams in the NFL, if their starting quarterback go down, they're going to have a rough season. So I don't know what more we could do for that position, and they've been trying.
15 other QBs in the league, though, with better odds to be the MVP than Jared Goff. Do you think that really speaks to what they think about this line right now, or about their question marks about their offensive coordinator, or just their system? Or why do you think he falls so far down?
Because he's always been disrespected like that. And to me, since he's been here, think about it. Everybody, they'll come up with all these excuses with Jared. Oh, he has all these weapons. You know, well, I mean, somebody still got to get the ball to these weapons so they can use it. I mean, the man has been 4,000 yards. You know, his touchdown, the interception ratio has been awesome. First or second in the league since he's been here. Jared has been nothing but good for this city and this organization since he's been here. Does he have his flaws? Yeah, he does. Everybody has their flaws, but I just think he is so, I guess I have to use the word disrespected, you know, not nationally, because it was another poll I looked at, and they had him as the, you know, just way down ranked. And I just don't think from what he's done, what he showed, what he's done over these last 3-4 years here, that he deserves a lot more recognition than he gets nationally.
I agree with you 100%. It is going to come down to the success of Goff and this offense to determine just how far this team goes this year, Lo. But early on, I've been really impressed with this defensive line as well. And yesterday, and again, preseason game number 2, I mean, DJ Wanham was phenomenal. Derek Morris, fantastic. I mean, he's showing a lot of athleticism, a lot of skill there. And then Ahmed Hassanin in preseason game number 1 had a couple of sacks, and he looks like he's chomping at the bit. We haven't even talked about Hutch. Obviously, he hasn't gotten any action yet, but he's obviously going to be a difference maker there. But that defensive line, looks really, really impressive and come at you with a lot of athleticism, a lot of size, a lot of strength, and come at you with different ways. I think Calvin Shepard's going to use those guys. How impressed are you by what they've been able to do up front and what they might mean to this team going forward this year?
And I'm going to tell you, the person I picked before the season started that I said the most important person on our defense is going to be Taleique Williams. I'm telling you, if he takes the next step, what that'll be able to do for Aleem McNeil and what that's going to do for the push up the middle on the quarterback. You just talked about Aiden and Derek Moore, or Anthony Lucas. I've been impressed with him too. Or like you said, man, Hassanin, I've been impressed with him. Just think about them guys coming off the outside, forcing the quarterback back up into the pocket. And you got Aleem, you got Taleique Williams there. They are going to be the key, especially Taleique Williams, because I think Taleique will unlock Aleem McNeil. And we know what Aleem can do, what type of player he is. But I think the key is Taleique Williams. If he could give us that push, if he could give us that two gap and when we need, so Jack Campbell can flow without a lineman getting up on him. There's so many things that he's important to do that may not show up in the stats, right? But if he's taking on two guys, that's leaving a guy free to run, right? If he's penetrating upfield or if he's running his games, that's just helping that line. And I think he can be that guy. So he's the guy I'm going to keep my eye on all season long on that defensive line. And like I say, I think, Trevor, if he goes, I know the rest of that D-line is going to go.
They're going to be disruptors up front, and maybe they'll give the quarterbacks no time to get the ball in the air. But when the ball does get in the air, what are your thoughts right now about that cornerback situation, the defensive backfield right now? Where you stand with that, with the injuries? We talked about them a little earlier. Rakeem Straw still injuries, question marks as to where he's at as far as the learning curve in his game, because he hasn't been on the field enough to really show what he's going to do long term. What are your thoughts on the backfield right now and where we stand defensively there with the cornerbacks and the safety situation?
Just a lot of uncertainty. That's where I'm at. There's just too much uncertainty back there. Like you said, you don't know who's going to be the nickel. They say Keith Abney. He's been challenging. Coach like what he's seen out of that young guy. Like you say, we know our injury situation at the safety position. The great thing about our secondary that I do have to say is a lot of experience back there. If you think about it, you got some 7-year guys, 8-year guys. I think you even got a nine-year guy back there. So what's important in the secondary, especially when you're shorthanded, Trevor, is communication. Communicating, make sure that, like they say, alignment and assignment. It becomes so important on the defensive side of the ball, especially when you got guys filling in. So having that experience in the secondary, I think that's going to help get those guys aligned and help those guys get their assignment. Now the physical part, right? You just physically going to have to try to match up with some of these great receivers that we're going to see. And you see the receiver position now. That's the position making all the money. They up there with the quarterbacks now, So that lets you know how important these receivers are to these teams around the league. So hopefully athletically, our guys will be able to compete with them. But the first thing we're going to have to be able to do is be able to line up, and we're going to have to know our assignments.
So I want to get back to this Rakeem Straw for a second. I know he's battling some injuries through camp right now, and is he the guy? I mean, Terran Arnold moved on. You need somebody back there. Is he the guy?
Man, when I see stuff in practice, I'm like, yeah. But Trevor, your best ability is your availability. We don't know. We haven't – he's played like 40-something plays in, 2-3 years that he's been here. So you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Like I say, in practice, I've seen some nice work out of him. And then I see he goes down and he misses a couple of days and it throws him behind. So again, I'm like you. It's such a big question mark behind Enos. I don't know. I'm waiting to see, just like you are, man, because we need him. It's no ifs, ands, or buts.
And that's why I bring it up and pick him out specifically. You need this guy. He's been in your program. Go back to the continuity of the guys you've got back there and know the program and have been familiar with what Shep wants to do. You need a guy who's got some of that, because you can't just try and plug and play new players every single position along your backfield or up front or on the O-line. You just can't live like that. So that's why I just pick him out singularly and wonder what your thoughts are on him, if he is that guy, if the coaches just don't have enough confidence in him because he hasn't been on the field to develop that confidence, even in himself at this level, to really be that guy. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a confidence thing with the coaches. I just think it's an availability thing with English. That's what I really think it comes down to. I think I don't think the moment will be too big for him. Like I say, he's just such an unknown, and I would love for him to take that position. I mean, again, Coach talked about Keith Apnea. He talked about a lot of the other guys in the backfield that are stepping up. You want these guys, like you said, that's been in the system. You wanted these guys to step up and take jobs. You would have wanted Giovanni Manu to take that position to where you didn't really have to rush a Blake Miller into play right now. But you have to. You know, you would have loved for Levi Onwuzurike, Mekhi Wingo, and a lot of those guys that have been hurt. You would love for them to take that next step so they provide that depth. So if Aleem needs a rest, the drop off of play doesn't fall off that much. We need Isaac Tesla to show why we gave up the 3 third-round picks to move up to get him. He needs to play. He needs to play a big-time role for us this year. We're going to need all our guys to play at this level. Amon-Ra, Panay, they're going to have to take their games to another level to kind of overcompensate for some of the shortfalls that we may have because of injuries.
There's one other one we haven't gotten to. Sam LaPorta. Coming off the back surgery, you're hoping, fingers crossed, he's going to get through camp and everything is going to be arrows pointing up as far as that's concerned. And then he's down with a hip. No really indication when he'll be back. Maybe he's back for game one, maybe not. Maybe you slow roll this guy because you need him when it matters most as the season rolls on. But I don't know where he's at right now. I don't know if you know where he's at, but he is one of the keys to this offense as well. Outside of the offensive line and the other guys we talked about, this guy is a linchpin with the things he can do and how valuable he is on the field. What are your thoughts on where Sam LaPorta is at? What can you tell us there?
Trevor, you seen what happened to our offense when he went out last year. I'm telling you, that was the turning point for us. Yeah, things weren't cohesive with John Morton and the play calling with the offense, but I'm telling you, when we lost Sam LaPorta, that was, to me, the biggest blow as to why our offense wasn't consistent, the rest of the year. You can't lose a guy like him, man. This is a big blow with him being out, losing valuable time, practice time now. I think he'll be all right. Just go off what Coach said. He didn't know, but he didn't sound overly concerned when he talked about his injury. So I take that to say it may not be as bad as we think it is. And I think that's what Coach feels like too. But we got to have Sam. And his blocking, I think his blocking is underrated. Sam gets in there and he mixes it up. And he's just as effective as a blocker as he is. And we know what he does catching the ball and how he can stretch a defense, how he can work the middle of the defense, how he can work zones. It's just so many different things you could do with a great tight end like that. So, yes, we're going to need him. We're going to need him to go to another level. And then the other guy, too, I'll throw in there is Isaiah Pacheco. Again,
right.
With that injury, Jahmyr's going to need somebody behind him. Jahmyr, I don't think, can handle a 300-plus
I don't think you want him to. I don't think you want him touching the ball that many times. That's just my thought.
Thank you. I agree, Trevor, because remember, we're going to use him in the pass game too. So you got to have a backup. And we were counting on Isaiah Pacheco to be that guy to relieve him. So hopefully that injury will come around to where he's ready to go for the Saints game, the first game of the season.
Yeah, and Ty Conklin, veteran guy back there. I heard you telling Dan yesterday you like his game. He's no Sam LaPorta, but he is a veteran guy. He can get it done offensively. Years back, I'm a fantasy guy. He was one of the tight ends in fantasy I used to try to get on my team, if not as my starters, my backup. So we know that he'll offer a few things down the road, but hopefully we don't have to resort to that because, like you say, depth along this team in a lot of positions is being questioned right now going forward. You need healthy bodies. They didn't do the joint practices. They didn't have the rookie camp. They did all they could to keep guys healthy this offseason and come in with fresh legs and healthy bodies. But, boy, they're dropping. You still got one more preseason game to go and a week of training camp here left to go, and hopefully we can keep guys healthy. With one more preseason game left to go, Lo, and a few more days left in training camp, what are you looking for the rest of the way? What do you want to leave fans with as we wrap this edition of Believe in Lions up?
Well, I said this last night on the radio broadcast, and I said we left that game with more questions than answers. And you just don't want that to be at this point. So it's a lot of questions got to get answered in this next week of preparation and this next preseason game. It just has to happen. And I just think our consistency, that's going to be the biggest thing. And I think that's the thing that can really hurt us. We got to be consistent as a team. We got to be able to sustain drives. We got to stop killing ourselves with penalties. I mean, what we had, 11 yesterday? It was a crazy amount. I don't know if it was that many, but I know it was like 18 penalties between the two teams. You can't do that, and a lot of those penalties, Trevor, were pre-snap penalties. And those are the ones that drive a coach crazy because those are the ones you can control. You can live with penalties you may get throughout the play, but those pre-snaps, they kill coaches and they kill drives. So we're going to have to be able to be consistent and overcome a lot of these things that's been going on these first two preseason games. And we're just going to have to look like a team that's ready to go. I'm quite sure we won't play a lot of our guys in this last preseason game. I know a lot of teams do that, but they're going to have to show coach something in practice to let them know that we're ready to go. We got this consistency going on, and we're just ready for the season to start.
So do you see many starters getting even a few reps in this final preseason game? How do you see it unfolding as far as starters that will and won't play, Lo?
Well, to me, if you got three preseason games, to me, if you wanted to get the heaviest load out of your veteran players, it would have been this game, the Washington game, and you just kind of let them sit this third game, if you give them one series, but you pretty much let them sit and get ready, prepare for the next two games. So coach has already tipped this card. I mean, you seen who played this game. There wasn't many starters that played this game. So I don't expect to see any starters at all, to be honest with you, next week.
All right. Well, as you say, a lot more questions to be answered with one more preseason game and a few days of training camp left to go. Lo, I really do appreciate your time. The great Lomas Brown wrapping things up here on this edition of Believe in Lions, brought to you by FanDuel. Can't wait to have you back on before the regular season starts, Lo, and just see what answers we have to the questions that are still out there for this club heading into week one and the regular season. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's certainly going to be interesting. And please, God, no more injuries. I know. Let's stay healthy, buddy. And you stay healthy, too.
I appreciate you, Trevor.
For the great Lomas Brown, I'm Trevor Thompson. We thank you for watching this edition of Believe in Lions, brought to you by FanDuel. Please be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to share and enjoy, and we will see you next time.